There's a few comments coming in about Brey Walker. So not only a very highly touted player coming out of high school, but now he's reached a point in which I can't speak to this as much as what I'm seeing here, but I would even say that some of the previews and correct me if I'm wrong, based on what you've set up for the offensive line, that he hasn't been a guy that's been talked about as much as you would expect at this point in his career.
Yeah, no, he's a guy, Mark. As you mentioned, we've talked about him quite a bit, and I think there's a little bit more. There's always a little bit more of a, I guess, a stake in the game, so to speak, for the local Oklahoma product. So he's a guy that came in very, very highly recruited, a guy that a lot of people thought had a chance to compete and play right away. And not only has he not done that, but he really hasn't seen the field at all in any significant manner for Oklahoma throughout his career. And the comment here is spot on. They did a early on in the summer camp. They did a couple of different strength tests, and Brey Walker consistently grades out as the strongest offensive lineman on this team, bar none. So I think he's a little bit heavy-footed. I think that's one thing that's caused him some problems, early on and throughout his career. And I think um, the scheme has caused a little bit of a struggle as well. So I think the simplistic view of what this offensive line and the scheme and everything under Jeff Lebby will bring to the table, I think will be interesting for him. Does he have the opportunity? I think he certainly has the opportunity to get into the two deep. I don't know. Um, I think it would be a lot to ask for him, to elevate himself from where he's been traditionally, and then certainly in the spring to a starting lineup role for Oklahoma this year. But he's definitely going to be in the battle for that two deep. And I've mentioned this a few times, but I think it certainly for me it bears repeating that I think just holistically there's concern, I think, among the Sooner fans related to Oklahoma's, how they have produced on the offensive line over the last couple of years compared to where they were, 2017, 2018, 2019. And so I think it's never as bad as it seems. I think when you set the bar as high as these 2017, 2018, 2019 teams have. Remember, this 2018 team offensive line, every single one of them are in the NFL. All five starters are in the NFL, and that's rare. And so that's not something that that happens all the time. So I think asking an offensive lineman to produce at that level is a little bit unfair. But I think at the same time, most people understand that the production isn't necessarily where it needs to be. And so you bring Jeff Lebby into the fold, who is an offensive lineman by nature and by trade. And so I think he understands offensive line play at a bigger and a higher level than Lincoln Riley did, just for the fact that he played the position and he knows it. So I think when you have essentially you have two on-field offensive line coaches, with Bedenbaugh and certainly with Levy there, I think you have to assume that this offensive line is going to get better this year, and I think they've done a really good job of really kind of changing their body style and overall through the summer. So I think we'll see how that kind of shows itself on the field, but will be interesting to see. I think we'll see a fairly significant improvement over that unit from where they were last year to this year.